So you remember the buzz, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just a few years back.
Uh-huh.
Um, seemed like everyone was talking about these, stores with no people in them.
Unmanned stores, yeah, they were everywhere in the news for a bit.
And you might have even heard they were kind of a big bust. Maybe even a, quote, failure.
That's the simple story you often hear, yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into the sources you sent articles, research, all about this unmanned retail technology.
And really focusing on what's been happening in China, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the simple narrative you might have picked up is like, okay, lots of excitement at first, then boom, failure.
Right, like it just fizzled out after the hype.
But we really want to go beyond that surface level because, honestly, that simple story, it kind of misses the bigger picture.
It really, really does. That idea that these stores just vanished, it leaves out so much nuance.
Yeah, and it's easy to just frame them as, an attempt to cut down on hourly wages.
And then just conclude, well, guess that didn't work out.
Right. And look, saving on labor costs is part of the story. We're not denying that. But our mission today is to discover the real reasons this technology is still significant.
Mm-hmm. And how it's adapted, how it's changed.
And where it's actually spreading now. Sometimes in, pretty fascinating ways.
Because, yeah, a little spoiler here, the most surprising reason isn't just that hourly wage figure.
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
So let's step back to that first wave of excitement. Maybe around, 2016, 2017?
Yeah, that sounds about right. You had Amazon go making waves with its plans in the U.S.?
Grabbing all the headlines. And over in China, Alibaba, they had their own experiment, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Right.
A temporary unmanned store linked to their TaoBao cafe in Hangzhou.
What tech did that one use?
Oh, it was pretty advanced for the time. You used Alipay, the QR codes, to get in.
Okay.
Then facial recognition supposedly tracked you inside. And payment was through electronic tags on the items when you walked out.
Wow. But that was just temporary.
Yeah, the sources are clear on that. More of an experimental showcase, not a long-term store.
Gotcha. And then BingoBox showed up.
Ah, yes, BingoBox. Those container-based stores.
Right. The little unmanned convenience stores and shipping containers. They launched, August 2016?
That's right. And they made a pretty bold claim right out of the gate.
Aiming for 5,000 stores within a year, wasn't it?
Exactly. That definitely got a lot of media attention, generated a huge amount of buzz.
So they really captured the imagination for a while there. Did they get anywhere near that number?
Well, they definitely expanded fast initially. The peak seems to be around August 2018. Reports mention about 400 stores.
400. Okay.
Yeah.
Not 5,000, but still significant. Across how many cities?
About 40 cities at that peak. But then came the contraction. Pretty significant.
Right.
They've shrunk back down to operating in just 28 cities now. The actual store count, well, it isn't clear, but it's obviously much lower than 400.
And that shrinking, that's what led to this perception we talked about, that it was just a flash in the pan.
Mm-hmm. Or worse, some critics, according to the sources, called it maybe just a way to attract investment, a fraudulent business.
Yeah, I remember seeing comparisons to the shared bike bubble.
It's an understandable comparison, in terms of that initial massive hype and then the market correcting itself.
Yeah.
But, and this is really the crucial point, just like shared bikes didn't actually vanish, they just became, part of the furniture in cities after the bubble popped.
Right, they found their place.
Exactly. The technology behind unmanned retail didn't just disappear either. It started finding different uses, evolving based on what they learned.
Okay, so let's dig into those lessons learned. Because saving labor costs is one thing, but you're saying there were other advantages these early players were aiming for.
Absolutely. Beyond just cutting the wage bill, the tech offered several other potential pluses.
Like what?
Well, a big one is enabling 24-hour operation. That's huge for convenience stores, right? Being open all the time builds that customer habit. It's part of the whole model.
It was good they were open, like the
Yeah.
old 7-Eleven slogan, yeah. And running a traditional store, 247. Those night shifts cost more. Higher wages.
Precisely. So an unmanned store gets rid of that pressure. The sources even float the idea of hybrid models.
Hybrid, you mean like?
Human staff during the busy daytime hours, then it switches to fully unmanned overnight. Saves on those expensive night wages, but still offers 247 access.
Interesting. Okay, what else?
Another advantage, one that became, unexpectedly critical, was the contactless aspect. Fei ji chu, as they say in Chinese.
Ah, right, with the pandemic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly, minimizing human contact was a massive priority for, infection prevention. Unmanned stores offered a clear public health benefit.
And that brought renewed attention. maybe investment.
Definitely. It gave the whole concept a new angle, brought some startups back into the spotlight.
Okay, makes sense. And going back to BingoBox specifically, that container model had its own unique advantages, didn't it? Mobility, setup costs.
Precisely. The whole idea was you could truck a store in, set it up in just a few days, super quick deployment.
And cheaper upfront.
BingoBox claimed it was about a quarter of the initial investment compared to a typical brick-and-mortar store.
Wow.
So that design was really geared towards rapid expansion or maybe temporary locations, like for festivals or events.
And running costs, too, lower.
They claimed about 15% lower operating costs overall, which in theory could let them offer slightly lower prices, like the example in the source, Coke for 2.2 yuan instead of 2.5.
Okay, so you have these potential benefits. Lower costs, 204/7 operation, contactless service, quick setup. So why did those early ones like BingoBox stumble so, well, noticeably?
Yeah, it wasn't just one thing. Several factors kind of piled up according to the sources.
Okay.
For BingoBox, a really big one was regulatory hurdles. Cities like Shanghai looked at these containers just placed on the ground with no real foundations and said, hold on, that's illegal construction.
So they couldn't just drop them anywhere.
Exactly. They were forced to start building proper foundations, which completely wiped out that quick mobility advantage.
And added costs, I assume.
Significantly, yeah. It undermined a core part of their value proposition.
Okay, regulations. What about the tech itself? Any hiccups there?
Well, the electronic tags, the RFID tags needed for checkout,
Yeah.
while making the tags themselves is super cheap, almost nothing,
Right.
the process of actually sticking them onto every single item, that's manual labor.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Someone has to apply every tag.
BingoBox themselves apparently estimated it added about 0.3 to 0.5 yuan in cost per item. That adds up, and it takes staff time somewhere back in the supply chain.
Okay. And did they actually stock what people wanted compared to a normal convenience store?
That was another limitation. They just didn't have the range. BingoBox maxed out at maybe 800 different product types, SKUs.
800. And a typical convenience store has.
Over 3,000 usually, so a huge difference in selection.
So where did BingoBox fit then? Who are they aiming for?
They were kind of positioned in this middle ground, somewhere between a big vending machine, which might only do 50 yuan in sales a day, and a proper convenience store needing, say, 2,500, 3,000 yuan a day to break even.
Yeah.
BingoBox was targeting these smaller, cheaper locations, maybe spots with potential for 300 to 2,000 yuan in daily sales, filling a niche theoretically.
But that limited selection and the whole process, did that affect the user experience?
Oh, definitely. Think about it. Scan a QR code to get in, find your stuff, do the self-checkout, then bag it all yourself. It's just more hassle.
Compared to just walking in, grabbing something, and having the clerk scan and bag it, yeah, even if the bag costs a little.
Exactly. It added friction to the whole process. Not as smooth or convenient.
And meanwhile, the traditional stores weren't just sitting there, right?
Not at all. They started rolling out delivery options, often effectively free if you used coupons. So the convenience gap narrowed or even reversed.
Good point. More competition.
And all this ties back to building habits. The novelty of an unmanned store might get you in once or twice.
But it didn't necessarily build that routine, that just popping in habit.
Exactly. Which is what traditional convenience stores really rely on for steady business.
Okay, so it sounds like a perfect storm for those early models. Regulations, the tag application costs, maybe a clunky experience, limited selection, and rising competition.
Pretty much sums it up.
But you said the tech adapted. It did just die. So where did it find a better fit? Where is it succeeding now?
Well, one major area the sources highlight is transportation hubs. Think airports, high-speed rail stations.
Okay, why there specifically?
China's big push for 247 operation in these major hubs. But staffing retail stores and restaurants around the clock with human workers, it's incredibly expensive.
Right, those labor costs, especially overnight, would be huge in those locations.
Exactly. So unmanned technology offers a neat solution to that very specific 247 staffing cost problem in those environments.
Okay. So we're seeing examples.
Yeah, the sources mentioned BingoBox actually showing up at Guangzhou Airport. And another company, CloudPick, has stores at Shanghai Hongqiu Airport.
How does CloudPick work? Is it different?
Their system often uses cameras and AI to track what you pick up. So you just grab your items, walk out, and it charges you automatically. No scanning needed at the exit.
Sort of like Amazon Go's original concept.
Pretty much, yeah. And JD.com, another big player, apparently has an unmanned supermarket at Ho Hot Station.
Interesting. So the demand was there from the push for 247 transport hubs.
Right. Though, COVID did temporarily dampen that 247 travel demand.
But paradoxically, COVID also highlighted the contactless benefit in those busy places.
Exactly. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but ultimately reinforced the appeal for these specific locations.
And you mentioned hybrid models earlier, too. Is that actually happening?
Yes, absolutely. That seems to be a growing trend, especially in cities. Stores staffed by humans during the day.
And then switching to unmanned mode overnight.
Precisely. It's driven largely by those rising costs for 247 human staffing, especially night shift wages.
Any examples of that?
Yeah, the sources point to South Korea, actually. The retailer eMart, a big chain with like 290 stores, is using CloudPix tech for exactly this hybrid approach.
And why are they doing it?
Explicitly motivated by the high minimum wage laws for nighttime workers there, it just makes economic sense for them.
Okay, so this is where the story gets broader, right? It's not just convenience stores anymore. The sources dive into service automation. And this is where that really surprising insight comes out, like unmanned bubble tea stands. Seriously.
This example, yeah, from a company called Chali Xiaowaiwu is fascinating because it perfectly illustrates the deeper issue the tech is solving.
Okay.
The primary problem here isn't just the hourly wage of the person making your bubble tea. It's the insane staff turnover in that industry.
How high are we talking?
The sources cite figures as high as 128% annually.
Wait, 128%? So on average, the entire staff turns over more than once a year.
That's what the numbers suggest. Apparently, if you stick around for 3 months in some of these places, you're considered a veteran.
Wow, that's incredible.
Think about the implications. If you run, say, 100 bubble tea shops with turnover like that, you'd need to recruit, hire, train, and manage something like 6,400 staff members every single year.
That sounds like a nightmare. The cost and effort must be huge.
Colossal. It can easily dwarf the actual hourly wage costs. So the robot arm making the tea, it's not just replacing a wage, it's eliminating that massive, constant HR headache.
That's a really powerful point. And these robot stands, they have other perks too, right? Smaller size?
Yeah, much smaller footprint, like 8 square meters versus maybe 20 or 40 for a traditional stand, so they can fit in more places.
So rent, presumably.
Probably. And they have a lower break-even point, maybe 100 cups a day versus 250 for a staff store. Plus, their modular just need power, no complex plumbing usually.
So they can pop up in mall corridors, parks,
Yeah,
places a full store couldn't go.
exactly. And that whole cycle of endless recruiting and training, gone.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. And we see a similar dynamic with those unmanned mobile kitchen cars, like the Neolix ones.
Yes, another great example tackling a specific HR challenge. Think about staffing mobile food carts, like breakfast vendors near subway stops or lunch trucks.
Right, very specific busy times.
Super short, intense, busy periods, maybe breakfast and lunch rushes, followed by really long, quiet, idle times.
Which makes it hard to pay staff well per hour.
Exactly.
Oh.
It often means low effective pay per hour for the vendor, which leads to, guess what?
By turnover again.
Yep. It's just a tough job to keep people in long term.
So the automated car replaces that human vendor. How does it work?
Pretty much. The Neolix carts use autonomous driving. They go to designated spots like busy subway exits. They can play a recorded sales pitch.
Okay.
You, the customer, see a screen, scan a QR code to order and pay using a mini program like within WeChat or Alipay.
And then the food just pops out.
A little door opens and you grab your meal. The inside is temperature controlled, keeping food hot or cold, anywhere from -18 Celsius up to 60 Celsius.
That's quite a range. The sources mentioned a cool use case in Shanghai, that AI island.
Yeah, that's a perfect illustration. Imagine a new tech park being built out. Setting up full restaurants there takes time, it's difficult.
Right. Construction permits.
So established chains like KFC, Pizza Hut, Yoshinoya are using these Neolix carts. They load them up at their nearby regular restaurants.
And send them into the tech park to serve people directly where they work.
Exactly. It extends their reach quickly and flexibly into areas that are hard to serve otherwise.
And they're smart, too. They can move to find customers.
Apparently, yes. They use cameras to analyze foot traffic, build heat maps of where people are congregating, and can automatically reposition themselves to the busiest spots during the day.
That's clever. How much do they sell?
The figure mentioned is around 300 meals per day per cart.
And again, the key takeaway isn't just saving the wage of the person pushing the cart.
It's eliminating that whole HR management nightmare associated with a job that has really difficult variable hours and often struggles with retention and consistent quality.
This really does bring us to that deeper insight from the sources, doesn't it? It's often not mainly about the simple calculation of automation cost versus a human hourly wage.
Absolutely. When you look at these successful examples, especially in service automation, the primary driver, the main benefit, is often wiping out the huge cost and effort and complexity of human resource management,
All that stuff, recruitment, training, retention, supervision.
dealing with inevitable human errors, maybe even dealing with, you know, disgruntled employees causing problems because they're unhappy, all of that HR overhead.
Yeah, humans aren't machines. We have emotions, we need purpose, we need training, we make mistakes.
But, and this is the critical distinction the sources really hammer home humans observe. We see things in the environment, we notice problems, we suggest improvements, we come up with genuinely new ideas.
That's the dividing line.
That seems to be the perspective described.
Okay.
If a job is purely repetitive, manual, and doesn't require active observation or generating new insights, automate it. But if the job requires observing the situation, being creative, adapting to tricky or unpredictable circumstances, or, crucially, generating novel concepts, that's where humans are still essential.
That distinction really helps clarify why, even with all this automation, people are still vital in many roles, at least for now.
Yeah, and a great counterexample the sources bring up is China Lawson, the convenience store chain.
Okay, what's their approach?
Well, while they do adopt some tech like self-checkout, they have deliberately chosen not to go down the fully unmanned store route.
Why not?
Because their whole strategy is built on deep, deep localization. They need staff who can, as the source puts it, feel the atmosphere of a specific neighborhood.
Feel the atmosphere, like understand the local vibe.
Exactly. Understand local tastes, what sells in this store versus the one 10 blocks away. Partner with local trends like stocking specific merchandise, maybe from Bilibili that's popular with young people in that particular area.
And propose new ideas based on that.
Critically, yes. Propose new localized products or promotions, like maybe getting an influencer to promote certain sweets, which can apparently draw huge lines, that kind of local insight and initiative.
So it's about those uniquely human skills again. Observation, adaptation, local nuance.
And especially that ability to generate truly new ideas, that creative spark. The source material is pretty explicit that even advanced AI really struggles to replicate that kind of innovative thinking.
Right. So looking ahead then, the future isn't just one or the other, is it? Not all human or all robot.
No, definitely not. The landscape is clearly evolving towards, well, a mix, a combination.
Like more of those hybrid stores we talked about.
Very likely, yeah. Especially in cities where 24/7 operation is desired, but night staffing is costly. And maybe smaller unmanned satellite stores or kiosks that supplement larger staffed hub locations.
Kind of like you see at train stations sometimes. Like a small kiosk, maybe staffed by an experienced person during the morning and evening rush.
And then it just switches over to unmanned mode during the quieter midday or late night hours.
That makes a lot of sense. You get the human efficiency and maybe upselling during peak times.
And the cost savings and sheer availability of automation during the lulls. It's about leveraging the strengths of both.
So the real insight maybe isn't just about replacing humans to save on wages, but figuring out the smartest way to combine human strengths, that creativity, adaptability, observation.
With machine strengths, consistency, 24/7 uptime, handling the tedious, repetitive stuff. It's
Right.
less about either or now and much more about finding that optimal blend for whatever the specific business challenge is.
Yeah.
Though it's interesting to note, Japan's really strong vending machine culture might mean its path looks a bit different from China's focus on broader automation, but that underlying global need for cost-effective, accessible, round-the-clock retail, that's pretty universal.
Wow. So this deep dive really shows how that first simple story, unmanned stores failed, was just way too simplistic, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It's clearly a much more dynamic field than that. The technology is constantly adapting to solve these really complex, sometimes hidden business problems.
Especially those thorny issues around managing human resources,
Yeah.
the costs and difficulties there.
Exactly. While also offering those other benefits like 24/7 service or contactless options when they're needed.
So what looked like a straightforward tech trend that just didn't pan out is actually a much richer story. It's about how technology evolves, finds its niche, and tackles these multi-layered business challenges.
Especially those challenges related to the sheer complexity and cost of hiring, training, managing, and retaining people. It's often underestimated.
Okay, so thinking about that balance, human creativity versus machine efficiency, and especially that point about the value of human observation in generating new ideas, here's something maybe for you, the listener, to think about. In your own world, your own context, maybe at work, or just things you observe, where do you see that essential value of human observation and genuine new ideas versus tasks that seem, well, ripe for automation? It definitely raises an important question.